non-synthetic fertilizers, natural stuff, and it all kind of bears in on what you and I live with, and this is it. That's a picture taken 1995 to 2004. The brown, the deeper it gets, the hotter it's gotten in those last so many years. And the fuel spots, this one at least work. It doesn't work like this. There's a few spots that have actually gotten colder. And when we say global warming, I quit using the word. Let's call it hyphen. Is there a room right there? I'll try to stay everybody's right. We need to say climate change. There'll be some places that go real cold. And when everybody says global warming, they automatically think the whole world's going to get hot. Well, it's really not. It's going to switch around and temperatures are going to change. But it's not going to just get warmer. I'll tell you a story. I got this here for a reason. I was a herpetology major. I've been studying snakes and turtles since I was 10 years old. At 11 or 12 years old, if you did this today, you sent your kids here, you'd be arrested. But my folks would actually stick me on a bus in South Georgia and send me to South Florida to collect snakes and turtles in the summer for pet shops and things. Again, I think I said either my 12th or 13th year was the first year. Well, we collect them a lot, but mostly what we did is bought them from the Indians. We go down and get a 6-pack of beer. I wasn't drinking beer yet, but everybody else was. And go to the villages, and they'd collect all day and all night in the swamps. And then we'd trade them, give them money, or trade or whatever. And they were really as great a collectors as we were, or better. We road collected. I'd ride on the hood of the car and drive up and down Alligator Alley. How old am I now?
Yeah,
60.
How long ago was that?
Oh, it's 50 years ago.
50 years ago.
48 years ago. I mean, I went for years. But anyway, then I'd ride on the hood of the car and we'd see a snake, we'd jump off a rabbit. So that's what they used us kids for. But anyway, what brought the story on is that they would always talk. The Indians really were philosophical. And they would talk to me about the Mother Earth. And I thought they were kind of making up this idea. Well, no, I finally got to know them as I got old enough and matured, and I realized they really do believe the Earth is our mother. We are intimately tied to it, and there's nothing that we do that's not part of it, or nothing that it does that's not part of us. So it kind of changed my attitude. That's kind of what they said. We are the environment. We are what we live, what we eat, what we sleep, and where we go. And I'm going to kind of get a bit, about a 15-minute show. This was a longer show I did at Texas A&M in February. First time they've ever invited OrganicTexas over there. The nature nerds have to go to A&M. And then I presented this in a long before. We sort of, I'll go through this real quick. We are the earth, the wind, the fire, and the water that makes up our whole earth. From the moment we're born, and we take our very first breath, we breathe in as a young adult or adult about 5 quarts of air. 5 pints, I guess is the word. And that baby starts breathing in, and the first thing you do when you're born is breathe in, and guess what? The last thing is you, when you die, you breathe out. That's the end of it. In the meantime, we're taking out this much air every time we breathe on average. In our lungs are 300 million little cells called alveoli, and what they do is they immediately exchange the, what have we got, 20% oxygen coming in, about 79% nitrogen, and about 1% inert gas. And that comes into our lungs, and we breathe it and we breathe it back out. But if we breathe it all back out, our lungs would collapse and we die. So we keep a good part of it in, and we let a good part of it out. If you spread out lungs into 2 dimensions, your average human adult lung will cover more than a tennis court. Air is very important to us.
That's one lung.
That's a set of lungs.
Oh, a set.
We'll cover that tennis court with alveoli. That's a lung. Okay, and one side, let me give you this was a thought exercise. Let me tell you who Harlow Shackley is, and you'll know who he is. You won't know him from what we're going to do here. He's very famous because he's the first man that measured the size of the Milky Way.
It's kind of slippery.
Okay? He discovered the size of the Milky Way, and he's known as an astronomer. He was also a brilliant man that we never knew. And this is a thought exercise he went through to try to convince people of things that I think is very parallel to what we're doing. I told you we breathe in that air, and it's about 20% oxygen, 79% nitrogen. About 1% of it's other stuff. Of that, about 0.9 to 3%, almost the whole percent, is argon gas. Now, argon doesn't hurt us, it doesn't help us, but it's what's called a noble gas. For those of you that took chemistry, a noble gas doesn't do anything. It doesn't mix with anything, it doesn't go away, it doesn't come back. It's sort of been here, and it'll be here later. It's around. But what it did is give him a good mark. When you breathe in this 3 times 10 to the 18th, I don't even know how to say that number, but each time you take a deep breath, you're taking in that many atoms of argon into your lungs. You breathe them back out. When I breathe my breath out that I just took in, and in a few seconds or a minute or two, all of you have got some of those argon atoms in your lungs that I just breathed. We're tied together. You have to think, where does my air stop and your air start? It doesn't cut off anywhere. We're all sharing this air. So as we breathe that argon gas out, it's followable, it's traceable because it's a noble gas. Believe it or not, I breathe it out, it gets caught in this air, it heads across the Gulf of Mexico, it goes into Canada, and here's what his thought process was. In 1 year, from the time you breathed in that argon gas, you'll have at least 18 or 20 of those atoms back in your lungs. They've been around the world. Think about that. Are we all sharing the air or not? We are. As a matter of fact, the same argon atoms that you're breathing, this guy right here breathed in when he was alive. The same ones. So did she, and more importantly, so did he. These same argon atoms are here. They're noble gases. They don't break down, and we're sharing it. But doesn't that also say we're sharing all the other air? We're breathing all this stuff in all the time. The air I'm breathing today, I have a 32-month-old grandson. He'll be breathing it when he grows up, and so will his children. It goes into the future. The air that we're sharing is not just air you and I share that blows away and gone. It's got to be here. And if it's not here, we're not going to make it. Anybody heard the canary in the coal mine stories? I'm sure you have. I'm from West Virginia, and my family were, I call them redneck coal miners. They mined coal for a living. Here's how they protected themselves in the coal mines. They took canaries down every day. And if a canary dropped off the perch, you got your butt out of the coal mine right now because it's poison. Okay, you didn't stop and say, hey, David, how come the canary's falling down? Hell no, you got out of the cage right now and you got out of that mine. They were our warning. Well, folks, I got news for you. We've got canaries right now. They're called children. At the turn of the century, 5 to 6% of these kids had asthma. At the last, it was 16%, moving up to 17%. Getting asthma. Okay, asthma is not good for you. Asthma does this to your bronchial tubes. You can't breathe. There's a good ideal sound. Okay? And what we know is it's over 15%, it's over 16 right now. Here's what bothers me. I used to work for a doctor. I used to be an ophthalmic technician. I've been in that side. I worked in hospitals. I worked in surgery. You go ask a doctor why the kid's got asthma. He says, oh, he's allergic to smoke. He's allergic to hair. He's allergic to dust mites. No, folks, he's allergic to the air because it's polluted. When we go from 6% to 16% of the kids sick from just breathing our air, we got an air problem. And we need to admit it to ourselves. This is one more story. I'm supposed to make this short. Working for the doctor, one day we had a call. Ordinarily I worked in Colonel, Texas. We had a call for a man that had to have his eye extracted.
Oh.
He'd ruined his eye, we had to take his eye out. But we had to go do it in San Antonio, Nick's hospital. So I drove all the way down there, and I got there real early. The guy's already in there. We were waiting. We had to dress him, and you had to wait for everything to get in to take his eye. So I had a few minutes of rest. I went into the emergency room area to steal a coat. And Nancy, a lady that I know there, because we used to go to that room, I asked her, I went in, and the whole place by 10 in the morning was full of people. They were stacked. They were sitting on top of each other. They were holding each other's kids. There's a bunch of old folks in there. And I asked Nancy, what's going on? She says, oh, it's a smog alert day. All these people are in here to get air. They're in to see their doctors. They're in hoping to God they don't die before they can breathe again. So I went in, we did our surgery, we got out about 1 o'clock or 1:30. I go back through the emergency room because I illegally parked in the emergency area. I was in a hurry. It's still full. There's still people in there. They're a different group. There's hundreds of people coming through here. I go out in the parking lot, and this is why I did this tail check. You wouldn't believe, now remember where the Nick's hospital is, the SUVs, the Hummers, the diesel trucks, the number of vehicles out there polluting the air, and the very people that are trying to save their grandparents' lives and save their children's lives don't even connect that they're a part of the problem. They're putting that much pollution out as much as any of the rest of us, and their children are sick, and their grandparents are sick. I just found it kind of an irony. I just didn't, it just struck me as kind of strange. Ordinarily I have a basketball here, but I have it wrapped in saran wrap. I didn't know I was going to do this show until I got here, and I peel off the saran wrap. And the reason I do it is, in comparison to that ball, the saran wrap is 10 times thicker than our atmosphere. When we think it just goes up and goes away, folks, the atmosphere is only about 6 miles deep, wrapping up our Earth. The rest of it's not available to us. So if you don't think we can pollute 6 miles of air with 7 billion people, putting about 25 or 30 pounds each of carbon every day, no, I have people who say, oh no, we're not affecting the environment. No, I got news for you. Think about this. I stole this guy's idea in case you don't know. That was me for a couple of years. Pretty smart, and we are the smartest thing that ever existed on this earth. We are the smartest, most intelligent animal. But you know what? There's no other animal, nothing living on earth, except us, that would have ever taken the air we've got and turned it into a toxic waste dump. And that's what's happening. And we're doing it more and more every day, and we're denying it to ourselves. We are ruining our air. What about water? Did y'all know that you're that much water? 72% of your water body is nothing but water. That's a lot, isn't it? Some of it's even more exciting. Your liver's 96% water. Your brain's 75% water. You're water. You are the water of this earth. It's very interesting. We look at the water very much the same way. If you look at how it goes, it evaporates and it changes the molecules and it comes back. But in essence, we're using the same water we've always been using. It's our water. It goes into the lakes. It goes back up into the air. We breathe it. It may become down in precipitation. It may evaporate and go back up. It may go underground for 1,000 years. But it is our water. It's the lifeblood of what makes the world turn. Matter of fact, this guy's kind of well known. He was a water weirdo. He was afraid of water, but he loved it. He did 72 different drawings and paintings and pencils all about water. He really loved his water. Back then, that it was like the blood of our world, that every time that ocean breathes 4 times a day, every 6 hours, it is the lifeblood that makes our world survive. And we're not taking very good care of it. Same old stuff. What other animal intentionally is polluted the water that we live in? No other animal ever did. This is it. We're at the beginning of it, and it's getting worse. Did you know there's about 1,250 rivers in the United States you're not allowed to go in anymore? You can't swim in it, you can't drink it, you can't eat fish in it. If there's any left, children aren't allowed near it. There's big signs, especially if you're pregnant, telling you not even to get near the water because it's so loaded with poison. 1,200, almost 1,300 rivers. The dead zone, the Gulf of Mexico, was bigger than it's ever been. 8,000 square miles of dead ocean this year. There was 300 miles of square just 15 years ago. 8,000. Now we've just found a 1,700 square mile area along the coast of Texas. They just announced it this week. I just did it on the show for the first time. Coming out of the Brazos River, that area, 6 feet from the surface, from the bottom of the ocean up, is so dead, shrimp can't live anymore. It's threatening the entire shrimp industry, and we're killing it. How are we killing it? We're not poisoning it directly. We've got so much nitrogen going into the water that we're getting algae blooms and they're using up all the oxygen and the fish are suffocating. Synthetic nitrogen is not a good idea. How about soil? What are we doing with our soil? Here's what it should look like. You should think about, we're not even ranchers. I'm not a vegetable grower. I'm not a tomato grower. I'm a microbe. I get my soil with everything living in it that ought to. All the bacteria and all the microbes and all the earthworms and all the nematodes and all the protozoa. You know what? It'll grow food. The plant will find what it needs. But when we use these synthetic pesticides and herbicides, especially the numbers we use, we kill these guys. We wipe 2/3 now. We don't sterilize. I used to believe the whole thing was wrong. No, if I get my microscope out and I look, there's a few things there. So you can take that same soil, bring it back to life in 3 months, and put that same stuff under my microscope, and you'll have 10, maybe the word's millions, tens of thousands more microbes in just a matter of 60 days. As soon as you quit killing it, it'll start fixing itself. But right now, we spend our lives killing our soil with synthetic fertilizers, petroleum-based herbicides, and we're one of the worst nations in the world. Things like atrazine is now be used anywhere in the world. The European Union won't use it, Japan won't use it. We use about 70 million pounds a year right now in the United States. It's enough for all of us to have a ½ pound each almost, 1/4 pound of pure poison. And we're using it every year. We have to give it up because of the water. Same old question. That's why I keep bringing him up. What else? What other animal ever did to the soil that what we're doing to it? Nothing ever has in all history past. We ought to bring this guy up. If that wasn't there, none of this would exist. We live on plants. Plants are the only thing we've got that can take that energy and convert it to something we can eat. Period. I get this for another reason. Let me show you something. See this little loop right here? This was a sun flare back in 1976. That's 365,000 miles across. You put 100,000 or something Earths in that little spot. The sun's big and it's powerful. We live on the sun. We are solar powered. Unfortunately, all the petroleum that we use, where did it come from? It's sun. It's liquid sun. All the coal we're burning, the number one thing we use in the United States now, all made from the sun. Plants that got made and buried into the ground. The sun is our sole source of living. This is a forest up in central Canada. Look at the devastation. It's dying from the tops down because of this one guy. It's 150 miles further north than it was a decade ago. What's happening? It doesn't get quite cold enough to kill this little guy's larva. So they're taking over millions and millions of acres of forest that has never, they don't have any natural predators in because it's never had to happen before. They don't know what they're going to do. But we're losing millions of acres of forest. I just happened to go to Alaska 2 years ago. I flew over some of it. You know, we were lucky in the last few years, but you know, in Earth, in the United States, not with the world, on average, the Red Cross and whatever the European Red Cross is, it starts with an F, hits about 120 to 150 disasters a year in the United States. In 2007, they went to 520 worldwide disasters. So even though we didn't get the big hurricanes the last few years we did before, there's been more typhoons, more tidal waves, more floods, more burning. Think how it burnt in the West this year. All because the climate's changed. Things are not working the same, folks. When you get 500 here, this is in Bangkok in Thailand. They flooded for months, not for a week. It wouldn't end. We were not a drought. We got 60 inches right here. We were proud. They got about 100 inches, 120 inches. They're not used to it. They're used to 40 inches a year. Here's that same map again. Just remember again, we're going to call it climate change because nobody likes the word global warming. This is interesting. Proposed coal-fired plants due in the next 5 years in the United States, 5 to 8 years. Each one of those plants, now we had 25 in Texas. We went down to 11. Right now we're down to 3. We've gotten very smart. We're the #1 wind power producer in the United States now. But each one of these, here's the scary part you got to think about. Each one of those puts out the same amount of pollution roughly as the city of Los Angeles every day. That's a lot of carbon. Coal burning is very dirty. We know what we're going to do to fix it, but it's dirty as hell. I don't know. This I just did in November 6th. I was in Georgia. I went and did a month of shows, and it is so dry. What do they call it? Exceptional. It has never been listed as being drier ever since we've been recording weather in the east. Now they got some good rains in the last week or two, and that sounds good. Oh boy, we're fixed. No, they're still so far down that they're worried about Lake Lanier not being able to put water enough to even feed the city of Atlanta. So we've got some weather changes coming that are a part of, maybe we should real quickly say there's between climate and weather. This is weather. It was 44 yesterday morning, and that's pretty normal for here sometimes. But what climate is, you take all that from all over the world and you average it out for the whole year, and when we do, we're up about 2 degrees centigrade from a decade ago. That doesn't sound like much. But you know what? When we had the general great ice ages back that they are able to record, they only dropped about 3 degrees below average, and the whole place froze over. If we go up 3 or 4 degrees on a whole worldwide basis now, it's going to cause some serious problems. Now, why don't we do it that fast? You know why? It takes the ocean 30 years to catch up. The ocean is such a huge sink, it doesn't just warm up overnight. The only real way to measure real climate is the ocean, not the air. The air is too volatile. That's what's happening. I'm going to only read 2 things and I'm done. Back in 1992, and I actually was involved in this, but remembering it. 1,700 of the world's leading scientists, including the majority, most of them were Nobel laureates, okay? put this out. Human beings and the natural world are on a collision course. Human activities inflict harsh, often irreversible damage on the environment and on critical resources. Now, that's not a big statement nowadays. Here's what was big about this. It was put out by 1,700 very, very famous scientists. Not a newspaper in the United States ran the story. Not the New York Times, not the Washington Post, nobody. They would rather have written, I think maybe Clinton was having a girlfriend. No major paper or ABC, NBC, or CBS even did a report on this report. That's how unconcerned we were, even though this many scientists said, we got a problem here. And it's coming, and we need to look at it now. This is an interesting graph, and I've got to explain to you, but it's very simple. 1958, a guy, well, he invented it in the early 50s, a machine that instantly reads carbon dioxide. Before that, we had to make a measurement and took a couple hours to figure it out. He stuck it on Mauna Loa, actually the United States government did, in 1958. Prior to that, the normal, for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, of the amount of carbon dioxide in the air was about 280 parts per million. By the time he put this up, we were already up to about 315. Okay? This thing records every year. At the end of 2005, and it's actually gone up from here, he's at 381, and we're at about 387 right now, 386. 286 parts per million from 280 in that length of time. Here's the weird thing. See this little line? It's kind of under patterned there. Probably follows it about as close as you can follow something, doesn't it? There's a few anomalies I can tell you. There's Mount Pinatubo when it blew up. Volcanoes do things. There's little drops in temperature sometimes. When they first do it, they get too many clouds and it gets cooler. Then it gets a lot hotter. That's it. Here's what this red curve is. It's the direct relationship of the amount of fossil fuel used in the world in conjunction to the amount of CO2 we're getting. How can we deny that we're part of the problem? How close does it follow before we know it's us? There's still a few people denying it, but not very many. This just happened last November. Before this, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said it was likely that it was human. Well, likely is a scientific term. That was between 66 and 91% true. Okay? They just went to very likely in November. Now, very likely is as high as they go. Scientists aren't as dumb as us. They never say anything's 100%. This is at between 91 and 99% sure that we're causing the problem by, again, hundreds of scientists that are very bright. No scientists rejected this. This was a consortium of all of them saying, hey, it's even stronger than it's ever been. Here's the other thing I got to say. Health and the environment. Healthy people or healthy environment. My thing is you can't separate those. We are the environment, we are the people, we are the cause, we are the solution. That's all I can tell you. And there's no other way. How do you help? Change your light bulb. Sounds silly, doesn't it? You know, if everybody changed to all fluorescent light bulbs in the United States like we're doing, you know it's been a law in Australia. No more incandescent. Okay, we got like 2 more years to get rid of it. That's it. We've done the same thing in a number of cities. We're not doing it. But if we all did it in the United States, we could close 50 coal-fired plants. 50 of them could shut down. That's how much electricity just the light bulbs in America uses. Pretty simple anyway. Turn your thermostat up in the summer and down in the winter. 2 degrees each way. Put it a bit. Okay? Turn the fan on yourself directly when you land it. Yeah. Well, I only own one AC in the whole house, and it's a window. But we can all do those little things. 22nd of April, which can't be very far away, Whole Foods will no longer have plastic bags in all 274 stores. They are going to get some what they call compostable plastic at some point, but they've kicked them out of all stores. 100 million bags we're going to save that we're going to go into the lake. 100 million from one store. Tell me they can't do it so good. Now what if we all did it? I got canvas bags in H.O.P.E. I started 3 or 4 years ago in KAHL. We put them in 10 stores. Now they can't keep up with it. We're selling these by so many they keep running out. We all can make a little difference. We can talk about a few ideas anytime you want, but my little girl made this up, my daughter. Help our planet Earth. That was what Hope was all about. And she thought it was so cool she had to do this. But anyway, we're going to now switch and go to tea buckets. I talk a little bit about compost. I just want to show you this. This is a very short version. We had it big and fancy and did all kinds of stuff at A&M, but I just cut a few of the slides out and brought it here because I don't think we talk about it enough. I think we hear everybody else. We see global warming. We think, oh, it's not a joke. I don't have time to read that article. We need to all think of it. Let me just get this $30 supply. Oh, I forgot this thing's on. There's a gardening show, and I came to realize that it's not just gardening. I went to a guy's house in Kerrville and was growing the best organic vegetables I've ever seen. He was a truck farm. He was getting like $3 an ounce for his lettuce, $48 a pound. Pretty good lettuce. I go to his house, I take my free wine with me, I make my own wine, and I used to give it to people so I could go back and drink it. So we break out our wine, and he invites me, he picks up the glasses and my bottle of wine and says, hey, let's go out on the porch and drink this. I said, okay. A few minutes after we're out on the porch, I look in his glass doors, and there's a guy in there spraying his house. He's got a pump-up sprayer. He's going everywhere, spraying in all corners. So I'd already had 2 glasses of wine. I finally said, John, what are you doing? So what do you mean? I said, what is that guy doing? He says, oh, he's the Orkin man. He comes in every month and sprays the house.
Oh, no.
I said, wait a minute. You're the most organic vegetable grower I know. They'll only buy your stuff because it's certified good stuff, and they trust you and believe in you. All adults here. And you got the damn Orkin man coming into the house once a month with your children and your dogs. And I could tell, I thought he was going to be angry at me. Well, at least unhappy. No, he just had, you could see the light bulb come on. I worked with him for an hour.
Organic was a fad.
Yeah, well, what happened is he bought the house and it came with the house. You know how you get the garbage man? you get the Orkin man. And so he just let it go in a year or so. Anyway, I threw a bottle or 2 more of wine, and I made him a kit up on paper, what to go buy, how to use it, where to get his sprayers, what to use that's organic, what's natural. It's several years ago now. A year or so ago, of course, I look him up again for my wine. No, to get some herbs. I used to buy my herbs. He thanked me profusely, and he said, I honestly can tell you I have even less bugs than I did then. I'm not worried about the grandkids crawling on the floor. I'm not worried about the puppies. He changed his whole concept. Oh, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper. It cost him 10 or 15. So anyway, that's what this is all about.